Alright, so this is a little demo of the Vick Audio Overdriver, which is part of their classic reproduction series of the Color Sound Overdriver, which was originally made famous by artists like David Gilmour and Jeff Beck. I'm not going to be trying to do any of those sorts of solos or anything by either of those gentlemen, but this is more just to kind of give an overview of the kind of sounds that you can get from this pedal, both by itself and then more importantly in combination with some other pedals. So for that purpose I have a Barefoot Sparkling Yellow Overdrive number 1. I'll also be comparing the Vick Overdriver to another clone of the Color Sound Overdriver, which is the Prescription Electronics RX Overdriver, which is been around for quite a few years. I don't think Prescription Electronics is around anymore, but this pedal I think has been used by artists like Jeff Tweedy of Wilco and some others, so I think this will make a good comparison between the two to kind of showcase the similarities and differences between these two circuits. So the original Color Sound Overdriver just had 3 controls. There was one for volume, bass, and treble. Both of these versions add additional controls for the drive here on the Vick Audio and here on the Color Sound, the Prescription Electronics. So it really kind of helps out a lot with the versatility of these pedals. So I'll just kind of go over the Vick Overdriver a little bit, just try and do some basic sounds in different settings, just by itself and then with other pedals. So for this I'm using a Gibson SG60s Tribute with burst breaker pickups and a Vox AC15, and this is my clean signal. And this is the Vick Overdriver with everything at noon except the drive, which is at 9 o'clock. Clean signal again. So even at this setting you're getting a fair amount of drive being added in. So let's try and boost the drive to noon. We'll back up off the volume a little bit. And we'll keep the bass and treble at noon. Again, here's a clean signal. Let's go ahead and just crank the drive up to about max, back up the volume. So at these settings we're definitely getting a lot more into the fuzzy overdrive fuzz settings that you can get with these sorts of pedals. So just by way of comparison, I will switch over to the RX Overdriver. The settings are very similar. The drive is set up to max and the bass and treble are at about noon. So they're pretty similar. I think the Prescription might have a little more gain, but I mean, in both cases with the drive maxed out, you're definitely getting into fuzz territory with these pedals. So I just will dial back on the drive a little bit, and then just kind of to play around a little bit with the EQ on these. So again, you have the bass and treble controls. So that's with both at set about noon. Let's dial up the bass, back off on the treble a little bit. And then we'll switch up. So the treble's at about 3 o'clock here, and bass is at about 9. So you have a pretty broad range of EQ available with this pedal. You can dial in, I think, the amount of bass and treble that you want to pretty easily. You know, in different gain settings depending on what you want to try and do. So while this pedal is pretty nice by itself, I think really where it kind of shines is in conjunction with other pedals, stacked into other gain pedals especially. So let's adjust things a little bit here. Okay. And for this trial, I will use the Barefoot Sparkling Yellow Overdrive. So that's just the Sparkling Yellow by itself, and here's with the Overdriver. At this setting I have the volume at about noon, the drive at 9 o'clock, and we'll keep both the bass and treble knobs at about noon just for simplicity's sake. And if we dial up the drive even more and back off on the volume, and this is without the overdriver. So just the Overdriver by itself is a nice pedal, but I think it really kind of stands out when you have it before your other overdrive pedals to kind of give it a little bit of a kick in the butt. And here having the EQ I think really helps out a lot as far as being able to dial in the kind of sound that you want to get. And then alternatively have it more bass heavy. So part of the reason I was playing that little Neil Young riff there is originally I became aware of the Prescription Electronics RX Overdriver from well, Jeff Tweedy using it, but then also an interview that I read in, I can't remember which magazine it was, from Scott McClue. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. He's played with REM, Minus Five, Young Fresh Fellows. And in the interview, he mentioned the RX Overdriver as Neil Young in a box. So I think that's kind of where my interest was certainly originally peaked with the RX Overdriver, and just with Color Sound Overdriver circuits in general. So I think that's really kind of the strength of these pedals, is running either into a dirty amp or into other gain pedals to kind of add additional gain and just more oomph to your overall signal. So that's the Vick Audio Overdriver, and it's a pretty awesome pedal. It's pretty inexpensive, relatively speaking, compared to a lot of other options for these sorts of clones of the original Color Sound circuit. Again, I don't know how closely either of these two are to the original circuit, but even without that, they're both excellent pedals. So that's the end.